Well, we've come down to this. What will Zamir White do? He's really the last big name player that Georgia's waiting on to decide if he will go to the NFL draft or not. He has some time left. He may have made this decision by the time you watch this, in which case I'll give you some details on Zamir and what he's like as a player. But we're grinding down here the last couple of days, about 10 days left until guys have to definitively decide what they're doing for their career. Dean Legge from Dog Post, Making You a Smarter Georgia fan. Zamir White is the most gifted player I have ever seen play a high school football game. And I would say it's not super close. And in that time, I've watched Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Murray, A.J. Green, Eric Berry, you know, Mecole Hardman. Uh, there's been a lot of really good players who have flashed and have been just exceptional high school football players. From the time I saw him to now, he's had two ACL injuries, and it's taken a toll on him. And I think that that's the question that really sits on Zamir right now, which is either way, either decision he makes, he's making a bet on himself. If he leaves to go to the NFL, he is not going to be a first two rounds draft pick. It's just not going to happen. If he comes back, that would mean that he's betting on himself that he can get the job done, move up the draft board, and maybe be a top 75 pick next year. There's a big difference in getting drafted that high and either getting drafted below that or not at all. By leaving, he would be making a bet on himself saying, hey, listen, I'm a running back. And I know I've only played about a year and a half, if you want to call it that, of college football, but that could be of value to an NFL franchise. It's just that he would have to wait another 4 years almost to get his payday, his real payday. And, having spent a little bit of time with Zamir privately, I don't want to go through a lot of the stuff that we talked about really, but it is important for him to be successful. And he's said that since, but this is not new for Zamir. And I think that people in his hometown are very much pulling for him. If you know anything about the area of North Carolina that he comes from, it's rough in terms of the prospects for the future there. This is not a metropolitan area. It's a proud area that has. They're worried that they've seen their best times, and it's really world events and economic events around the country have really wiped out Laurinburg. But Zamir has to worry about himself. And I don't mean this bad because I know that area pretty well. I went to college about an hour from there. There's no future for Zamir White there. His future is in football, and it's not there. And growing up, going to high school there, and seeing what the rest of the world could bring to him motivates him and it motivated him. And people from his hometown really wanted him to succeed and want him to succeed. And when you hear Zamir say, I don't want to be a failure, that's the sort of pressure he's putting on himself for the future. Because he knows now for sure, and I think he knew then when this was before his senior year in high school, that anything can happen. You're not guaranteed anything. And so he's probably going into this last decision of his college career, figuring out, is it right to go or not? This is an extremely difficult choice if you're him. And I'm glad I'm not him in this case, because he has to decide, is it worth it for me to bet on myself to stay in school, graduate with a degree, and possibly injure myself, have an injury, or or work myself up the NFL draft in 2022, or should I bet on myself to leave right now, take what will be a minimum deal, and have to go 4 years as a running back in the NFL to get my payday? Because to make it as a rookie, I don't know if Zamir would get drafted. My suspicion is he would, but it would be late. But if you take someone like David Andrews, okay, his guy that was not drafted, or Ben Jones, or Clint Bowling, or guys who were not highly drafted and made it. It's rare. It's not common, okay, because you got to make the team, you got to make the 53 man, and then you got to start, and then you got to get the next deal. All the while, they're drafting the whole time. So for Zamir, the question is, do you bet on yourself and go that way and take the guaranteed money? Because it would be a little bit less than $1 million of guaranteed money. Just this ballparking. That's a lot of money. Okay? That is real money no matter where you grew up. Or, because you can always come back and get a college degree. I mean, the University of Georgia is not closing. And with $1 million, $800,000, $750,000, you can pay for your last year of school and, take it from there. Or does he come back and try to get a minimum deal that's higher than that? Could he work himself into a top 2 round pick next year? I don't know. But right now, he's definitely not in the first 2 rounds. I mean, that's just that there would be questions about the knee. There would be questions about the performance. There'd be questions. And I think this is really a complicated situation for him because I don't know that there is a right answer here. When you start thinking about, he is going to be a professional athlete. That is what he's going to do for a living. The question is, how does he maximize this one chance that he's got to make guaranteed money? Because the second contract is not guaranteed. Why? Well, you got to get to the second contract. And as an NFL running back, that's hard to do. And, particularly with someone who has had 2 ACLs. Not hating on, I love the kid. I think he's great. I'm just recognizing that he has had 2 ACL injuries, and everyone else in the NFL is going to recognize that too. That is the red flag with Zamir White. They don't know him. They're not cheering for him. Unfortunately, and this is not an ideal way of putting it, but these guys are looked at as commodities. They are not, much more than that to the NFL. So, can he do the job in the league? To me, yes. The question is, what is the best way for him to maximize his value? I think this is a tough call, but even just thinking about it myself right now, I think the way to maximize his value is to come back for 1 year at Georgia and just go hard. I mean, if he comes back for 1 more year, he'll be the starting running back. The good news, if he came back, would be that James Cook is back, which means you've got the whole arsenal of running backs for Georgia back. And you never know, again, what the future will hold. I thought it was very possible that James Cook could leave. I mean, he is exactly what the NFL's future is, which is this playmaking, home run hitting back. Zamir is much more like the guys from the 2000s. James Cook may be like what the guys in the 2030s are like. So I don't know what the right answer is. I think either of the answers could be correct. We won't know until this time a year from now. But knowing him a little bit, this guy has some serious pride, and I don't mean that in a negative way. He enjoys his craft. He has pride in himself, the way he looks, the way he performs. He's developed. As a human being, you can tell. So it's a tough call for him, and we will be watching what he decides to do. He is about the last guy that Georgia's waiting on. I mean, Tyson Campbell leaving, that was expected. Eric Stokes leaving, that was expected. Devontae Wyatt, we knew that was happening because of what happened with the Senior Bowl. Malik Herring leaving for good as a senior, that makes sense. Richard, same situation. We thought, and Dogpuss subscribers know this, that Jordan Davis would probably come back, that JT Daniels would probably come back. Cook was a guy we didn't know for sure. We thought it was totally possible he could leave. And Zamir is really the last one, the last question. I mean, Trey Hill was a guy that I think he's to some degree in the same situation as Zamir. He's just not a running back. So I think that, to me, if I were Trey Hill, I would have come back. But it's his call. It's not insane for him to leave at all. For Zamir, this is really a tricky situation, and it's all good either way, honestly. But you don't know, and that's the hardest part. Is that you don't know. So this guy that's got to think about it, have faith in himself, which I'm sure he does, and the decision will happen. Dean Legge from Dog Post, making you a smarter Georgia fan. Thanks for watching. Make sure you check out the playlist up here, and we'll see you over on the website.